Cool. How's it going, Aksa? It's great to get you back on the podcast. I'm really excited for our conversation today.
I'm loving it. Thank you. Thank you for having me back. And I'm super excited for our talk today.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, why don't we start with how you got into IT? What made you want to go down that path? Was that always like a passion of yours? Did you study it in
Yeah.
university or, what does that look like?
Yeah. I kind of mentioned this story a couple times at other places, but I didn't really study IT or cybersecurity. I was electrical and engineering graduate and I was doing my master's at University of Texas in San Antonio, and I had to take a course that's outside of my core subject, which is electronics and communication. And there was a new course on cloud computing. I took it, and then that kind of like shifted my entire focus. And that led to my first job with Twistlock, the first container security solution that was available back then. And then that led to Twistlock being acquired by Palo Alto Networks, which really put me in the product management track. And from there, doing more, I realized that startups is my thing. So I've continued my journey, and now I'm with Abstract Security, who is more of the data operations, security operations world. So it's kind of a shift from the container security world into this, and definitely a shift from the electrical and communications engineering world to cybersecurity. One of the things that kind of introduced this cybersecurity world to my life was I was doing a paper during my master's thesis on securing cloud containers using quantum key distribution. And that kind of introduced me to Twistlock because I was talking to people who are doing cybersecurity, because I was like, I don't know what container security is. I know a little bit what I think I understand about quantum, which is like juxtaposing itself.
Yeah.
That's what led me to Twistlock, and the rest is history. And that's how I got here.
Yeah, it's an interesting path, because I tell everyone in security, right? Or everyone trying to get into security or thinking about it, right? You have to be curious. Like that's like number one above everything else. Like you have to be so curious that it's like embarrassing to be that curious, And there's something about it too, because I've seen other people, that even like get into security and they get bored, and like maybe it's the role, right? So they change roles and they go to a new place and they're like, no, this just isn't for me. And for me, like I don't have that problem at all. It's like, I have a whole list of things and it's going to take me like beyond my entire career to get through them all. And I'm sure as new things pop up, I'm going to be diving into those, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
what were you going to say?
I was just going to add on to what you're saying, that people outside, it may look like a glamorous role, like, oh, cybersecurity, I get to like stop the hackers, stop the bad guys. But there's a lot of nuances within cybersecurity. Like, what kind of what track do you want to take? Are you going to be in applications? Are you going to be in auditing and governance? And if you're not in the right place, you'll end up in a boring job that you don't really like. So I think it's really important to, instead of thinking about like, I want to get into cybersecurity, think about what topic really excites you. Is it AI? That's the buzzword right now. You want to know what are the best practices in security for AI, then just do the research and the opportunities will come to you automatically, right? You do the research, you learn about it, you talk about it, and then people who are looking for roles to fill are going to eventually find you if you are in the same. And that's kind of what happened to me. Like, I wasn't looking for a job in cybersecurity per se. I was just trying to finish my thesis. And a major part of it was the security role, the cloud containers, container security or cloud security. So I had to do research, I had to learn all about it. And I mean, also timing by God's grace that it worked out where they were looking for someone and this was new and all things worked together for my good. But I think if I set out after my master's thinking like I want to get a job in cybersecurity, I wouldn't say it's impossible, but it's difficult because so many job descriptions out there say you must have experience in XYZ, you must have experience in that. How are you going to get experience if you don't get the opportunity? And so I think the focus should be on the topic that makes you passionate.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a really good point. It's crazy because there's been so many people in the industry that complain consistently about these stupid job descriptions, and like the maybe the biggest one that like stood out to me was when the creator of Kubernetes, right? Like this guy literally created the container framework.
think I saw that.
Yeah, he saw a job posting that required, 10 or 12 years of experience, and this is like 8 years into, Kubernetes existing, and they declined him. And he's like,
I
I'm
didn't.
on the paper that like started it. Like, like it's so crazy, and people have such unrealistic expectations of what that experience even means or brings to the table
Mhm.
that they're taking I feel like they're taking this like 10 years of experience as like a broad, okay, you're a senior, you're a lead, we're going to apply that in security. It's like, no, that isn't how that works at all.
Yeah, yeah. And honestly, personally, I think those paper applications, they really shouldn't determine because some people are not good at writing, but they're really good when you talk to them and they're really good at what they do. And these descriptions are like, you put it into an AI LLM and you get this really nice curated thing with all the right buzzwords, but then you may not get the person that you wanted for the role. I think we should really get away from the applications and just be like, hey, let's talk. If you have what it needs and you have the experience, just bullet point what you've done, facts, and let's get into it. But instead it's all about the buzzwords, the years, and yeah, it's been hard.
Yeah, maybe the most frustrating part for me is, so I have two little kids. I'm getting my PhD. I do consulting on the side and I have a 9 to 5, right? So I don't have the time to modify my resume, for 10 different jobs. It's like, here's my
Yeah,
resume. If it looks interesting, call me, right? Like that's what it is. But to these like filters and everything, you basically have to rewrite your resume for every single application you submit to even have a chance. And I recently went through a round of like interviewing, looking for a new job and everything. And I barely got any hits. And I think it's kind of twofold, right? Like the job market is in a weird place right now
yeah,
where, you know, when a role goes up on LinkedIn, right, within 2 hours, it has over 100 people applying to it. I
yep,
don't know if they're bots. I don't know if they're real people, right? Like maybe they're all fake or something like that. But how am I ever going to get recognized for any position in that situation, let
yeah.
alone now I'm formatting my resume to fit something that I'm not even going to get recognized within, right? So, like, it's this crazy conundrum.
And sometimes you don't even get to the stage where you can talk to a person. You're just automatically declined based on some keywords.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the craziest thing. Maybe my most successful roles even, I think, have been from hiring managers that watched the podcast. They heard me talk about a topic and they're like, "Oh, I need a guy in cloud security. I like his personality. I like how he thinks. His skill set is there." Right? Cuz I'm not just talking to anyone, right? Like
Right.
I've had on, like yourself, I've had on, AI security experts from NVIDIA that are over here talking about like tiered architecture for AI models that, you know, I'm over here like trying to just keep up. Like I feel like I'm barely able to read, what this guy's putting down, right? But having that broad range of experience opens you up to hiring managers, a little bit more, right? And getting out there and talking about it, really building a brand for yourself.
Right. I think also I see a lot of knowledge sharing and people who
Mm,
do a lot of knowledge sharing. And I think that's so important for our community, our defenders, security defenders, community to share that knowledge more outside of just talking about our products and platforms, right? And that's why I love podcasts like these, where we can just have an open conversation about things going on, and of course, highlight innovations that people are doing within their company and what the product is doing. But it's also important to just talk about, I think, things outside of work related stuff. I don't know. There's a thin line on LinkedIn on how much you can post about personal versus professional. I'm definitely not an expert on that. But I like knowing, like, hey, you're a person behind the corporate mask, right? And you have your own life and you have your own story and how you got to where you are. And that's inspiring to me. Just going, reading stories of people, how they got there. And I think that affects our work as well. If I see someone who's gone through a similar work track and that I'm trying to get into, it opens up different ways of thinking and how to think about career and just our own personal journey as well. So I think we need more of that as a community that don't treat people like, oh, it's a sales guy. I'm not going to reply to him. Oh, it's a CISO. I'm going to reply to him. Like that kind of differentiation based on titles or vendor names, we should really try to look at people as people and they're solving problems. And we're all here to protect environments and organizations in whatever way. If you are an organization, you're trying to find services to protect yourself. So community is key to cybersecurity. And I think that is what also opens doors of opportunities for people if we create that bridge and have more community led projects.
Hmm. Yeah, something you said about, kind of being more open. I've always found it that the security, industry overall, right? At least once you're in, everyone's like super open with you typically, like they're very more than happy to discuss a new topic with you. They're more than happy to talk about what they're working on, what they're finding, all this different stuff, right? Which was something that I was nervous about, going into this podcast, right? Is who's going to come on? Who's going to even like want to talk to me? Why would they talk to me, right? All these different questions that you always, have pop up in your head when you're doing something new, something you haven't done before and whatnot. But, everyone that I've had on, right. But it's like everyone that I've had on for the most part, like they're all very open about it, and to be honest with you, the people that are there because like their PR person put them there and they don't really want to talk to me, like those episodes don't even go live. It's just like, yeah, I'm not giving you the marketing,
Keeping it real.
Yeah, because I do almost no editing, and the editing that I do is now done by AI. So like so I feel like it adds an authenticity to the podcast, right? When you come on and you tell your story, they're going to hear your story from you. I'm not choreographing it, like you've been on the podcast twice. No,
Hmm.
I don't think I've sent you any questions.
Yeah.
Like nothing.
In fact, not even today. I was just like, oh, what are we going to talk about? Well, it's Joe. We're just going to find something to talk about.
Yeah, yeah, we'll figure it out. It's that's a good thing about this space though, right? And especially with a background like yours, right, where we're talking about, PQC and containers, there's so much that we can dive into it. I was actually thinking about this, last night. Maybe I guess I'm a nerd, right? So I was thinking about like quantum encryption overall because I have to know, like, I feel like just enough to get by and not sound stupid, and not insult an expert, like with knowing, with like doing my research, right? And so I'm thinking about like how much I actually like know, within the space. And I'm like, man, I think it's like 2%, but I think we probably also only know maybe 40% of what it actually is overall. So that
Exactly.
takes it down to like point 0.5, point 0.4, of
I
what
mean,
my actual knowledge is.
that's what I was going to say. Is there truly a full knowledge of quantum world? I remember my professor, um, right on day one of the class, when I mean, day one of me starting this report with him, we had a one-on-one to discuss what this is going to be. He was going to give me books to read and all those articles, research material. And he, before giving them all to me, he said this, look, as you start this journey, just whatever you know until now, throw it out the window. You're going to relearn everything from this perspective. So just come with a completely open mind. Don't bring the laws of physics or logic into what you're learning. Just learn with a completely open mind. And that's key to starting your quantum learning journey. And I thought, why? Like everything's connected. And then I started reading and all the principles, and I was like, this is a lot.
Yeah.
I see what he was saying now. And honestly, I am excited about it. And I think, not think, I mean, you already seeing the merge of quantum in the cloud security or security world itself, whether we talk about cryptography or whether we talk about secure channels and things like that. I don't know if we've completely accomplished it, but I think it's something that we should talk about because it's going to impact our world sooner or later.
Yeah, yeah. I've had on other people, and we every time we go down this rabbit hole, right? It's a weird situation because we've been told for so many years, I mean, a couple decades at this point, right? That, quantum is right around the corner, 5, 10 years, whatever arbitrary number is thrown out there. But recently it's kind of more in front of your face because now we have this LLM, which is not an AI, it's not quantum, right? It's a brand new search engine that is way better than Google. I mean, I use Grok more than I use Google now, but it's like a building block for what you would call, AI, right? And AI and quantum are tied together in everyone's heads. Like it's impossible to separate the two, no matter how much delineation you break it apart, right? Like everyone is going to think about the other when you mention, AI or quantum, right? And so
Okay.
we're in this weird flux state, right? Where it could literally happen tomorrow or it could literally happen in 10 years. Everyone just knows it's going to happen. And I was talking to a researcher based out of Germany who's actually like doing, this legit quantum research with satellites, launching satellites. He launched one over the weekend. Um, and I mean, he literally told me, he said, everyone in the space, that's anyone that knows anything, we're all kind of a little bit nervous right now, right? Because now everyone is paying attention to it. And, you have Google, you have Microsoft, you have NVIDIA,
Yeah.
Tesla, all these companies are building towards, an AI integrated quantum computer, right?
Mm.
Because once you give AI the proper amount of power that quantum computing unlocks, basically it's pretty much unstoppable. There's no dialing it back in, right? And the argument is that essentially the genie's already out of the bottle, and so you're not going to put the genie back in the bottle. You kind of have to just go with it at this point, and hopefully, the genie doesn't destroy you at the end of it.
Wow. Well, I'm not an expert on quantum, but I'm definitely looking forward to that episode of yours
Yeah,
with the researcher because in I guess I've been more on the cybersecurity kind of world. I've lost touch with from the quantum world ever since I graduated. And AI is definitely something that's on everyone's minds. I don't know how much I think of quantum when I think of AI, but for sure, from a vendor perspective, from someone thinking about solutions that we can solve for clients or organizations that haven't been solved before, and how do we make it better? The problem is there's so much hype about AI that sometimes the buzz is greater than the facts, and the facts get buried inside. We were just discussing this because we're going to have a panel at in Pittsburgh about AI and security and just facts from people actually building it, right? People from AI companies and what are the problems they're trying to solve? How are they solving it? So what's buzz and what's real? I think that distinction is starting to get very blurry.
yeah,
There's so much hype on AI, and people say things like AI will replace XYZ jobs just so plainly.
yeah,
I mean, I don't know if humans can be replaced by technology perfectly. And this was an argument that I had when I did a talk on process mining for audits and governance and such. And so there was someone who asked me, like, well, if we have all this, automation and everything in place, then we don't need auditors, or we don't need auditors if we have AI. And I said, No, because there's going to be some exceptions that you have to manually put a human lens and verify if this is a serious security exception or if this is okay to add, and things like that. Decisions like that can't be just 0 or 1 logic. That you need a human perspective and the knowledge and experience that you've gathered over the years to apply to that kind of decision making. If you just put everything in an algorithm and say make your own decisions, I'm pretty sure the results are not going to be bad. Just like if you put one prompt and say write me a whole research on XYZ, it's going to have a lot of stuff that it just made up. And you don't wanna apply it just as is to security. This is why you need humans, just like any machinery, right? You have machines that made our world easier, but you still need humans to develop and guide and go through that journey with it. I think that's what AI is going to be. It's going to be a really good support, but not a replacement.
Yeah, it's so far off to actually be a replacement. And I feel like companies are like moving too quickly in that direction where they're, you know, like
Absolutely.
I won't say where I work right now, but it's within, the mortgage industry, right? And there's huge pushes for AI to get rid of like loan officers and loan underwriters just completely. And like we're all kind of just sitting here like, we're moving so quickly towards this. You're going to eliminate all these jobs and in 5 years you're going to figure out I need double the amount of people, right? Even with this AI on top of it that is doing whatever, right? And that's really like the case for most things. Now,
Yeah.
I do think that there's some areas that like it'll offset in the near term, right? Like, I was reviewing a contract with a customer of mine, and rather than pay $1,500 to a lawyer to review the contract and give me their opinion on it, I'm just going to throw it into Grok, see what Grok tells me. I'm going to review it myself, use my head,
Yeah.
Google what I need to Google, and
Yeah.
put it back into the document and send it back, right? I've never had, a actual lawyer like, receive the document from me and be like, this doesn't make any sense. This is stupid. Like they've never called me out on it at all. So why would I go and pay the guy that, I've used before, right? Like, why would I pay them? It doesn't make any sense, and another thing is probably like graphic design artists, or whatever that might
Well,
be.
we're gonna have a debate right here.
Yeah. Well, it's an interesting debate. I'll tell you this, right? So I recently paid someone to like create a logo for me and everything like that, right? A new logo, and did a fantastic job. Like no complaints, nothing. Like I've used them before, did fantastic work. Grok goes and gives me a prompt saying, "Do you want a logo for this, services website that you're standing up?" Like, why not? Right?
Yeah.
Like I already paid this guy. Doesn't really matter. I'm gonna go with that logo, but it would be cool to see what Grok gives me.
Yeah.
And Grok like threw out four drafts, right, within 30 seconds,
Mhm.
and all four were better than what I just paid for. And I'm just sitting here like that's gonna be a problem for a lot of people.
I mean, competition, yes. I think that also makes me curious. What are going to be the copyrights for images and
Yeah, yeah.
products generated by AI, right? Yeah, do you have thoughts on that? Am I the whole
That's that's gonna go yeah, I mean, that's gonna go into a really weird area because these companies like 100% could lay claim to whatever their AI cooks up, but that would also open the door to like massive pushback, right, from the population that's using these tools where it's like, hey, we understand our data is, being sold on the back end. You're making your money somehow, some way, right? But it would lead to other things. That's the problem. Like they could 100% do it. Like they
Yeah.
could just like completely destroy that and rip that from our hands and
Mhm.
everything. But that would lead to so many other negative things for them in the court that like I don't think anyone would ever do that.
Yeah, that's definitely something to look or think about. Wasn't there a recent discussion about Disney princesses and um, versus AI, because I think Disney is in some discussion about not giving out its, I don't know. I had
Really?
someone talking about it, but I think cases like that will come up. If AI starts generating things off of products that are already copyrighted, but then it adds its own twist to it. Now, who really owns it? Is it
Right.
original creator? And we're going in a complete loophole here. But
Yeah.
yeah, when you mentioned that, hey, I replaced my designer, or not replaced, but I could replace my designer,
Augmented.
could, then that makes me think like, what's going to be the originality of stuff? And what
Right.
if it creates the same logo for another user and nobody has the rights? So who wins?
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting conundrum, that we're inevitably going to fall into. We're probably already in it and we don't know, you know?
Yeah, I think the same applies to security too. When you mentioned earlier that, hey, we're moving too fast, adding AI to security and products in general, not security, products in general, whether security product or not security product. I think that's so important to note or highlight there, that people or companies are in a competition to say, we have AI features or AI capabilities. And that can have a lot of negative impact on what you're actually creating with AI. For example, if you have a platform that takes a lot of customer data and you want to add an LLM or a natural language processing kind of query, people can create easy policies or configurations based on that. But if you don't control the data set models and don't have proper boundaries in place, then you're kind of mixing up. First of all, you could be in a problem where you mixed up different customer environments or proprietary data from different customers. The other thing is, how do you avoid LLM poisoning or data poisoning and LLM hallucinations, right? How do you control that? It can make this its own stuff. Something as simple as like, give me a summary of my threats that you've seen from my environment. And what if it makes stuff up to give you that answer? But if you completely rely on it, and if the creator of that platform doesn't have proper security features in place to avoid that from happening, then you're just prone to so much more attack surface. And then there's a whole another thing about prompt injections and all those things coming into play as well. So as companies are running to get or to say that we have AI something platform, AI powered, AI enabled, AI assisted, it's so important to know or ask the right questions, I think, as a consumer, that, okay, but how do you protect against all these different risks that AI features can it introduce in the environment? Is it keeping my data safe? Do you have proper boundaries in place? Is the data set given by the company, or is it like, what kind of model are you using? Are you using like an open library? Are you using a controlled data set? How are you controlling that governance piece? How are you controlling the privacy piece? If you don't ask the right questions, every platform's going to use AI in some capability, but you may expose yourself to higher threats and higher risks. And I think that conversation in itself is a whole entire topic. You could have an entire podcast series on that.
Yeah. No, I have. It's a pretty expansive area overall. And, like you said, I feel like when we were going into the cloud, basically 10, 15 years ago at this point, a lot of people didn't realize the huge risk of sharing resources of, hey, I'm going to throw all this data into this S3 or this EC2, whatever it might be, whatever, maybe a Lambda when they came out and whatnot. And surely AWS would never use my data against me and create a competing product before me very conveniently before I launch it and whatnot. Or, another customer would never be able to see, this data or anything because when I log in, the portal's right there and it's only my stuff. But, unfortunately, there's been reports of all of the big cloud providers actually launching, competing products conveniently right before a startup is going live, right?
Mm,
With, you know, code that's very similar that was built on their platform. And now they have this new product and there's nothing that you can do about it, right? Because when you're a startup, I mean, you're kind of going, month to month, week to week for the amount of money that's coming in and whatnot. And when you're AWS or GCP or Azure, it's like what's a couple $1 million that we're going to waste on this lawsuit compared to this willow chip that we just made and spent probably like 2, 3, 4 billion dollars on to create over the
Mm.
last 15 years. Like, what does it matter?
Wow. Yeah, that's an interesting stick topic for sure. Actually, that brings another question in my mind. So, I'd love to know your thoughts on acquired platforms. These big companies, they acquire startups and sometimes offer their capabilities for free, or sometimes might integrate them in the bigger platform, or sometimes just not use it at all, right? It gets disappeared. And then there are startups that are innovating so fast and they are all hands on deck. They're super focused on what they're delivering, and it's all inbuilt and native offering, right? Um, Curious, I have my own opinions about it, of course. I've been in a bigger company, I've been in smaller companies, so based on my experience, I have my own opinions. But I'm curious what you hear and what you think about that acquired platforms versus native innovative platform.
Yeah, it's so speaking from an end user, right? Like I've only been an end user. I've never worked for a vendor. I haven't like sold the product.
Right.
I'm a pretty good salesperson, right? From an end user, it always makes me nervous when a product that I like or have used gets acquired by, Palo Alto or
Mhm.
Cisco or Microsoft, Google, whenever they're acquired by any of these giants.
Yeah, because you're like,
Because
what's gonna happen to it?
yeah, like the list is pretty extensive
Yeah.
of products that were amazing and then they get acquired. And I mean, 2 years in, it's a new product, it's completely reskinned. It looks like someone just jacked up the UI completely, doesn't operate the same. All of the roadmap items that were supposed to take place never came to fruition for a number of reasons, right? And it destroys products, like
So
typically, right? And that's why I'm a little bit nervous with Google acquiring Wiz because one, Wiz will protect themselves, right? They built their product on AWS. It's also not like it's not out of the realm of possibility that someone could recode it. Some genius from Google could recode it to run on GCP, right? Like
yeah, yeah.
it's not rocket science. And like I've gone through the whole thing of talking to Wiz about it, and they all seem very confident that nothing's going to happen. But still, again, like there was a permissions company that was doing cloud permissions completely differently from everyone else, and I can't remember what it was called. Google bought them, and the product development stopped when they bought them. They bought them 7, 8 years ago, and they were 5 years ahead of everyone.
Hmm.
Google bought them. I think it was like Beyond Security or something like that. And at first, Google just took the same name and integrated them into GCP. And it was like, okay, it operates the same and everything else like that. Then it
Hmm.
just seems like they completely forgot that they had that product. Like it's, now it's lackluster when before it was so far beyond everyone else. Like I was literally evaluating it to be like, can I use this thing like on prem? Because I want to use this everywhere now.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely see that in the data pipelines world as well. There are acquisitions of data pipeline platform companies. Then there are innovators like startups like Abstract Security. And we're building everything in house and working on pushing out releases, features fast, and supporting our customers with custom integrations. Because a lot of times there's not a one solution fits all, right? Sometimes you have to work and understand and refine, fine tune things to make it work with everyone. Sometimes, I mean, most of the things are pretty casual, they're global, right? But if there is a customer using an integration that's not really in well popular, or they have their own in-house data source that they want to extract things from. There's always going to be cases like that where you need access to the leadership, the engineering team of the company that you're working with. But if you're working with a bigger company, where does like what does that customer support going to look like, right? And I think that's a pretty big differentiator in people think, oh, I'm going to get this XYZ thing for free. So I already have um, what do you say, like a partnership with this big company, and they're gonna throw in this XYZ thing that they just acquired for free. So why can't I just go with them? Because they're a brand name, they're a bigger name, they're a bigger company and logo. Why would I go with a smaller company or a smaller startup? Well, there's a pretty big difference there because sure, you're gonna go with a well-known brand or logo or whatever, much bigger, billions of dollars logo. But what is the compromise you're making? And what are the pros really aligning with the cons? And I think that's something that should really stand out for consumers. I'm sure, like just like you said, you've never been on the vendor side, you're a consumer, but you're already thinking that, right? You're already thinking like, hey, how is this going to impact? What kind of service am I going to get? And not only customer service and support for product and platform, but even beyond that in terms of innovation. For at bigger companies, how many layers of approval do you need to go through to release a feature? And you're going to try to make it work with the entire ecosystem so that it benefits the bigger ecosystem that may have nothing to do with the problem that you're trying to solve, but you're trying to sell more of your own bigger services, broader services. Whereas at a startup, you're kind of straight focused in your core area, the problems you're trying to solve, and you're vendor neutral because you don't have expanded library of services you're trying to upgrade the client to or trying to sell them on. So you're just going to keep your focus on what does the customer actually need in this space and how can I make it better? And if there's innovation that needs to be rolled out, it's much more faster. So the pace of innovation is much faster as well. I think that is something that broader audiences or customers should keep in mind when they're thinking about should I go for a free version of something because a bigger company is offering it, or should I stick with a company that may be smaller in size, yet really executing on all fronts and really delivering results in so many ways. So glad to hear that from a consumer perspective that you're already thinking about it. And I'm sure a lot of smart leaders out there also think, I hope, think the same way.
Yeah, it's it's become so critical. I involve it in my like POC criteria, right? The success criteria where it's like, hey, I'm gonna cold call your support. I'm gonna I'm gonna just call them, email them, open a ticket, whatever it is, right? And I'm gonna grade the level of support I get, like
Mm,
just plain and simple, right? And so I've been on the support side, and so I won't play like a difficult customer or anything like that, but I mean, I'll act like someone that, hey, I just logged in for the very first time. This thing isn't working. I was told I need to go fix it. What do I need to do? Right. That's probably like, and a softball pitch, right? Like a little soft pitch to any support engineer. Like they should be able to handle that. And then as it goes on, the difficulty gets ramped up, right? I want to see, when you decide to escalate because
mm,
that matters for me when I'm trying to get something resolved and you don't know within 5 minutes, you should be escalating, right? Like immediately, you should be like, hey, I need an adult over here to help me on this thing. You know, let's get through it because I want to provide that level of customer support. And for sure, I mean, like, for those companies that bought the IAM tool from, before Google bought them, right? I'm sure they were getting outstanding support. And that's what I actually heard in the industry too, that they were getting outstanding support. Go and open a support ticket with Google, right? Like let's start there. Open a support ticket with Google and we'll time them for when they get back to you and what their response is and all that sort of stuff, right? Like because that matters a whole lot. Good luck trying to get Microsoft on the phone. Microsoft is typically a little bit better about it, like they'll throw someone in front of you with the Microsoft, badge, right? But it's like, okay, I'm like I just ran into this random issue. I'm going to spend the next 2 weeks trying to get someone on the phone. They're going to have to escalate it 5 times because no one knows what they're doing over there, right? And this is a one-off problem. So like God forbid me as an end user I can't solve a problem in their product before they need to solve it, you know? That's like the literal situation. I've I've been on calls where like I've had to reverse engineer someone's product
Mm,
and explain to the person that's supposed to be giving me support how their product works most likely on the back end for them to escalate it to get someone on the call that understands what I'm asking. And I'm just sitting here like, dude, this was this is a 4-hour call now. This was a 5-minute question, right? You should have escalated at minute 10. Like as soon as you didn't know what I was saying, you should have escalated, you know? And on the flip side of that too, I have like I've internally experienced
yeah.
where, we're, internally at a company, right? We're evaluating CSPM solutions. Only like the core of your cloud security program, kind of an important thing to, have the right one in place.
Hmm.
Have all of the top competitors. I mean, there's 8 or 9 solutions I'm looking at, right? And I'm evaluating them. I'm nitpicking them because that's what I'm supposed to do. And, last minute, a vendor that we bought everything that they sell because guess what? They own the entire space in a category. And it's like, hey, you're either going to go with them or good luck with anyone else. Very rightly so. Their product is amazing. I love it to this day. I have used it for years, right? They decided, hey, we're going to get into the CSPM space, right? Like we're going to play in this space too. We heard you guys wanted it. We'll give it to you for free. So, my VP, my CISO, like
Hmm.
they're fully bought into this company,
Mm,
right? Because we already have a contract with them and everything else like that. We're never going to rip them out, nor should they. And we get on this demo call. Demo is in the title of the meeting, right? To me, that means we're going into a console,
yeah.
right? We're clicking around. Okay, we get on this call and it's nothing but slides for an hour. It's nothing but slides and screenshots and mock-ups. I'm like, okay, guys, that's fine. You guys mistitled this one. I want to
Yeah.
see the tool,
Yeah.
right? Put the tool in front of me. Let's get another hour on the clock, right? Next week. We get on there, demo again in the title, more slides. And I just go back and I meet with my CISO and I just told them, like, hey, they're showing us slides because they don't have a product. Like, they're giving it to us for free because they can't charge us for something they don't have, right? But if we buy it, they'll build it basically. And it's like,
Oh my
come on.
god. So you're more like a design partner than a customer.
Yeah, which is it's cool for me, I guess, if I really want to deal with, the heartburn for a couple years, I'll get the product that I specifically want, you know, but it's like, man, do we really want that? Or can we just be more efficient and go with the market leader in this space, pay a little bit extra because they already did the work? Some other customer took the bet on them and they built it around that person already, like,
Yeah.
come
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah, I couldn't, I just, the first call when it was titled demo, I was like, okay,
The demo.
I'll give you a break. It's fine. Someone miscommunicated. It's all
Yeah.
good.
I mean, I think the
Second
moment
call,
yeah. I think the moment you see a Figma mockup in one of those slides, like, oh, this is talk.
yeah,
We're gonna talk about what the demo will be.
yeah. I'm very sus of
Yep.
any mock-ups that I see. I'm just sitting here like, I don't know if this thing's real.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
That's the weird space that we're in because like security, just security overall, right? From the corporate side, it's so hot.
mhm,
You got security companies spinning up every day basically, and they're going to RSA, right? And by the end of the year, they're dead. They're no longer a company. And, these people, I mean, no knock on them. I've interviewed some of them. They're just creating these companies to sell them and make a whole bunch of money. Hopefully Cisco buys them, has to deal with that garbage product, right? And no one's going to buy it from there on, right? I mean, that's the situation that the market is in because they see Google spending 34 billion on Wiz and it's like I can build something that Wiz would buy that they're lacking, which probably isn't the case because if you look at their product suite, they do everything in the cloud. But everyone sees that dollar sign and they're just like, "Oh yeah, I could get a couple million here or there." You know, it's just
Yeah.
we're getting sidetracked quite a bit, and it's my
I mean,
fault. I'm
I
supposed to be leading this thing.
yeah, I know. I started asking you questions. No, but I enjoy our conversation, and I don't know how we got here. I think it started with my journey, and then quantum, and then I, and then yeah, start
I mean,
acquisition.
if you think about it with what we've seen with security, we're at the very beginning of like the quantum computing companies, you know? And
Yeah,
like if you look at any sort of stocks, there's like four, right, that you can invest in that are related to quantum that are like directly building a business all around their quantum computer.
yeah, and also there is
But
universities investing heavily
yeah,
in research in that front as well. My professor, Dr. Brian Kelly from UTSA, I know he's pretty involved deep into it, and there's independent research organizations as well that are investing in. I don't think we're really in just theoretical phase for quantum. Yes, it's not like the magic you're going to see quantum computers in every house stage, but there is more than just textbook, right? Quantum key distribution channel. Recently, I was reading an article that there was a longest practical quantum key distribution channel established between 2 points. I don't remember exactly the organization that was associated with it now, but it's a proven fact. So once the channels are established, now you're dealing with other things like the scalability of it and things like that. But the fact that these kind of things are happening is a proof that it's not just theory anymore. It's not magic. It's not like teleportation at this instant, but there is progress in proving out the concepts of quantum computing. So I'm sure that we will see a gradual progress in that. It's not like AI that you can just plug in with code and get its actual physical equipment and things needed on top of it, which makes it a little bit more um I guess effort. Little it requires a little bit more effort. But yeah, I agree that I don't think it's just theory or just text for sure. Interesting. Interesting for sure. Well, thank you for having me. I know we're like almost out of time.
sorry.
No, no, no. I truly appreciate the opportunity to be here again and just speaking candidly about all these topics. I'm looking forward to following more of your podcasts and discussions with all of these people and see where things are going. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Well, before I let you go, how about you tell my audience where they could find you if they wanted to, connect with you and reach out and, probably even like, you weren't here on behalf of abstract security, but where they could find abstract security.
Yeah, absolutely. I am available on LinkedIn. That's my primary social media. I think I'm showing my age, but please find me on LinkedIn. My name is Aksa Taylor. You can also find Abstract Security on LinkedIn. We recently published a book, Applied Security Data Strategy, if you want, and that's freely available. It's a community resource. We talked about it. We're doing another community led event, and that's going to be in Pittsburgh. So if you're in Pittsburgh, please come say hi to me in person. It's going to be my first travel after my maternity break. So I'm pretty excited.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, looking forward to it. I'm sure I'll, see a recording of what you guys are doing in Pittsburgh and we'll definitely be in touch.
Thank you. Thank you. I look forward to it.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone. Hope you enjoyed this episode.